Grandpa Morris had survived the Depression, 2 wars, and 53 years of marriage to a woman who couldn't boil water without setting off the smoke alarm. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for the silence that followed his granddaughter Jessica's toast at Christmas dinner. "To my biggest regret," she'd said, raising her wine glass with trembling hands, "my senile elderly mother." The crystal clinked against crystal around the table. Everyone drank. Even Dorothy, Jessica's mother, Morris's daughter, lifted her glass with a sad, knowing smile before the tears started falling. Morris set down his fork, the prime rib suddenly tasteless. At 87, he'd learned that the worst moments in life often came dressed in holiday sweaters and good intentions. It had started 6 months earlier, when Dorothy moved in with Jessica and her family. Not because Dorothy was senile, she was only 62, sharp as a tack, and could still beat Morris at chess, but because she was dying. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4, the doctors had given her 8 months, maybe a year if she was lucky. Morris remembered the day Jessica had called him, sobbing so hard he could barely understand her words. "She's choosing not to fight it, Grandpa. No chemo, no clinical trials, she just gave up." But Morris knew his daughter better than that. Dorothy had never given up on anything in her life. She'd raised Jessica alone after that worthless husband of hers had run off. She'd worked 2 jobs to put herself through nursing school. She'd fought for every good thing she'd ever had. This wasn't giving up, this was choosing. "Your grandmother died from the treatment, not the cancer," Morris had told Jessica gently. "Sometimes the fight takes more than the disease ever could." Jessica hadn't wanted to hear it then. Morris could see she still didn't want to hear it now, sitting at the head of her dining table, mascara streaking down her face as her husband awkwardly patted her shoulder. The dinner continued in painful silence. Jessica's kids, 10-year-old Emma and 8-year-old Tyler, pushed peas around their plates, confused by the adult emotions swirling around them like smoke. Dorothy had excused herself to the bathroom, though everyone knew she was really just giving Jessica space to fall apart. Morris cleared his throat. "That was a strange toast, Jessie girl." His granddaughter looked up, her eyes red-rimmed. "You don't understand." "Then help an old man understand." Jessica laughed bitterly. "She's been here 6 months, Dad. 6 months of her not remembering to take her pain medication. 6 months of her wandering the house at night because she can't sleep. Yesterday, she couldn't remember Emma's name. She called her sweetie instead, like she was some stranger's child." "The medication," Morris started. "I know it's the medication," Jessica's voice cracked. "I know the painkillers make her foggy. I know the disease is affecting her cognition. But knowing doesn't make it easier when I ask her about my childhood, and she just smiles vaguely like she's not sure if she was there for it or not." Morris reached across the table and took his granddaughter's hand. "Tell me about the regret." Jessica's husband, Marcus, shifted uncomfortably. "Honey, maybe we should." "No," Jessica squeezed Morris's hand. "He deserves to know. They all deserve to know." She took a shaky breath. "My biggest regret is that I wasted so much time being angry at her for dying. When she first got diagnosed, all I could think about was how she was abandoning me. How dare she refuse treatment? How dare she not fight? I spent 3 months barely speaking to her, Grandpa. 3 months of her remaining life gone because I was too selfish to accept her choice." The tears were flowing freely now. "And now she's here and she's slipping away and I have to watch it happen. Some days she's mom, she's fully present and we laugh and talk like we used to. But other days," Jessica's voice dropped to a whisper, "other days she's like a stranger wearing my mother's face. And I hate that I'm losing her twice. Once to the disease and once to whatever's happening in her mind. That's my regret, not that she's senile, Grandpa. That I'm watching her fade, and I wasted time we could have had together." Morris felt something crack open in his chest. "That's not what you said, Jessie." Jessica looked confused. "What?" "Your toast, you said, to my biggest regret, my senile elderly mother, not my regret about my mother. You made it sound like she was the regret." "I know," Jessica wiped her eyes. "I meant to say it differently, but the words came out wrong, and then everyone was drinking and it was too late to take it back. I saw her face, Grandpa. I saw how much it hurt her. Then you'd better fix it, Morris said firmly. Dorothy emerged from the bathroom just as Morris was standing. She'd reapplied her lipstick, a gesture so quintessentially Dorothy that Morris's heart ached, but her eyes were puffy. I think I should go lie down, she said quietly. Not yet, Jessica said, standing abruptly. Please, Mom, not yet. Dorothy paused, one hand on the doorframe to steady herself. The cancer had taken weight from her frame, but not her dignity, never her dignity. Jessica walked around the table to face her mother. I need to try that toast again. Sweetie, it's okay. It's not okay, nothing about this is okay, but I need you to hear what I meant to say. Jessica picked up her wine glass, though her hand shook so badly that Marcus had to steady it. To my biggest regret, that I spent 3 months angry at the bravest woman I've ever known, that I wasted precious time because I couldn't accept that sometimes loving someone means letting them choose their own path, even when it breaks your heart. She looked directly at her mother. You're not senile, Mom. You're on medication that makes you foggy sometimes. You forget names and dates, but you never forget to tell Emma she's brilliant or Tyler that he's kind. You never forget to thank me for the little things. You never forget what matters. Dorothy's composure crumbled. Oh, baby. And you're not elderly. You're 62. You should have decades ahead of you, and it's not fair that you don't, but you're handling it with more grace than I could ever manage. Jessica's voice broke. My regret isn't you, Mom. My regret is every moment I didn't appreciate you. Morris watched his daughter and granddaughter embrace, 2 generations of strong women holding each other up. Emma and Tyler rushed over to join the hug, and even Marcus looked misty-eyed. I'm sorry, Jessica whispered against her mother's shoulder. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry too, Dorothy said. I'm sorry I'm putting you through this. I'm sorry I chose not to fight. Don't be, Jessica pulled back to look her mother in the eyes. Grandpa told me what Grandma's treatment was like. I understand now. You're not giving up. You're choosing quality over quantity. You're choosing to spend your time with us instead of in hospitals. That's not cowardice. That's the opposite. Morris cleared his throat, his own eyes suspiciously wet. Your grandmother's last 6 months were in and out of hospitals. The chemo made her so sick she couldn't enjoy anything. She missed Tyler's birth because she was too weak to hold him. He looked at Dorothy. You chose differently. You chose to be present for whatever time you have left. Even if I'm not always fully present, Dorothy said with a weak smile. Even then, Jessica agreed. I'll take foggy you over know you any day. They returned to the table, and Jessica raised her glass once more. 3rd time's the charm. To my mother, who taught me that being brave doesn't mean being fearless. It means being terrified and choosing love anyway. This time, when they drank, it felt like communion rather than mourning. As Morris watched his family talk and laugh and cry together for the rest of the evening, he thought about all the toasts he'd heard in his long life. Wedding toasts full of hope, funeral toasts full of memory, anniversary toasts celebrating endurance. But this toast, the messy, imperfect one that had started as a mistake and been redeemed by honesty, this was the one he'd remember. Because that's what love was in the end, not perfect words or perfect moments, but the willingness to try again when you got it wrong, the courage to say what you meant, even through tears, the grace to accept someone else's choice, even when it broke your heart. Dorothy caught his eye across the table and smiled, the real smile he remembered from her childhood, when she'd been a little girl bringing him dandelions from the yard and calling them gold. Thank you, Dad, she mouthed. Morris raised his glass to her, an old man's blessing on his daughter's brave and terrible choice. Sometimes the best toasts weren't the ones you planned. Sometimes they were the ones you had to give twice, through tears, until you finally got them right. And sometimes Morris thought that was enough.